I know you missed us. It is the Fans College Football Podcast. Barrett, Sallee, and John Michaels with you, recapping week 2. We'll make some picks for week 3 as well. John, it was a wild weekend. You know, it's funny because I always say this every time, every single time it's a down weekend in college football, all hell breaks loose. And that's exactly what happened last weekend.
Yeah, we called it Cupcake Weekend was exactly what it was supposed to be. And then all of a sudden, South Florida takes care of Florida. Mississippi State takes care of Arizona State. All of a sudden, Clemson's down 16-0 to Troy. You look up and go, wait a second, what's going on? That's the beauty of the sport, Barrett, that we love so much, is the fact that weekends like this, that are supposed to be sit back and eat some wings and not really pay attention, it turns into, oh my goodness, this guy's on a hot seat. This team's not as good as we thought they were going to be, and it's topsy-turvy, just like we like it.
And obviously the hot seat is a big topic in Gainesville, Florida, after what happened with the Gators and South Florida. Look, I'll go ahead and say I was in the past a Billy Napier defender. I can't defend Billy Napier because now he's entrenched as a head coach as a major college university. They were undisciplined when he got there. Fine. I get it. Coming from Louisiana, big, huge fan base. You kind of don't know exactly how to get into this. You have the wrong numbers on the field in Utah. Okay, fine. I'll excuse it. Now we're in year 4. And you waste 2 timeouts before the 2-minute warning when all you need to do is run the clock out. It was like flashbacks to 28-3 in my mind. And I was like, what? Why are you doing this? There's no excuse for this. So when fans in the concourse are yelling, fire Billy, fire Billy. At last year, I'd have been like, y'all are effing crazy. Y'all are crazy. Now I'm like, yeah, it's time to go. Because you can't have this. You just can't have that kind of talent and that kind of quarterback and be so disorganized.
So last year, we all thought Billy Napier was going to be fired because you looked at the death schedule, and they got off to a 1-2 start. They got blown out by Miami. I was sitting in the crowd, loved every second of it. Then a couple of weeks later, they get boat raced by Texas A&M, and they look pretty much unprepared. Billy saved his job, and we talked about this last week when he inserted DJ Lagway, and it was out of necessity. Graham Mertz gets hurt. He saved his job by finishing the season the way that he did, and all of a sudden you win a bowl game, and Florida feels like, all right, we're on the right footing. Now, you looked at the schedule this year, and you go, you know what, if Billy Napier and company goes 9-3, 8-4, he's probably going to be coach of the year in the SEC. But we all penned in a win against Alex Golesh in South Florida. The problem was there were self-inflicted wounds throughout this game that I think really hurt Florida. They had a 3-play stretch where I think they scored 3 different touchdowns on all 3 of the plays. Every one of them came back via penalty. Now, one of them with the offensive pass interference, I think that was a little bit ticky-tack, but either way, you had chances at the end of the game to win it and put it away, and then you have a dumb player spits in the face of a South Florida player, gives them a 15-yard penalty. The next play, you give up about a 45-yard play, and suddenly you lose at the buzzer 18-16 to South Florida. Now, for South Florida, unbelievable win for Alex Golesh, but you look now at the death march that Florida's going to have to go through. Just over the next 4 weeks, they're on the road 3 times. They're at LSU. They're probably going to lose this game. Then they're at Miami. They're definitely going to lose that game. Then you still have a home game against Texas. Good luck with that. And then you're on the road again, I think, against Ole Miss. There's a chance Billy Napier in Florida are sitting at 1-5, and he's on the unemployment line.
Yeah, you know what? If I'm Alex Golesh, I walk into Billy Napier's office after that game on Saturday and start measuring the drapes. I start looking for how I'm going to put the furniture together, where my desk is going to go, how I'm going to organize the IT. Because if Florida fires Billy Napier, that guy that walked into the other tunnel after that game is your best opportunity to get back. I know Florida loves to go big, and Billy Napier was a big hire. Remember, back-to-back 10-win seasons at Louisiana. They hired Will Muschamp when Will Muschamp was the hot target. They did all of this stuff to get a big name at the time. Just go with the right guy. The right guy is the guy who beat you on Saturday night in the Swamp.
Here's the problem. I don't know that Alex Golesh's name is big enough for the University of Florida fan base. And I know the fans don't make the hire, but here's the problem. I've seen their wish list already. You know who they had at the top of their wish list? Dan Lanning. You know what? I had Christina Milian at one time at the top of my wish list. There was zero chance of that happening. Number 2 on their wish list is Lane Kiffin. Now, maybe Lane Kiffin sees going back to the state of Florida, I can elevate my career. But why would Lane Kiffin leave Ole Miss, where if he goes 10-2, he's king, to go to Florida, where if you go 10-2, you get fired? Jim McElwain had back-to-back 10-win seasons and got fired there. I think the expectation and the realization at Florida are two different realms. The expectation is we're going to go get Bill Belichick when he was with the Patriots, and he's bringing Tom Brady. The realization is you're probably going to get somebody along the lines of Alex Golesh, and you need to go find the type of coach that can elevate. They haven't been good in a long time, Barrett. I know Dan Mullen was solid. They made an SEC championship game with Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts. That program right now is a middle to bottom of the road SEC team. And until they get the right guy in there, that's where they're going to continue to be. They're 20-20 over their last 40 games. That should never happen in Gainesville, Florida.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. One thing that hasn't happened in a long time until Saturday was Mississippi State making a big statement against Arizona State. Look, I feel, first of all, I feel so good for those people in Starkville. They deserve it. That celebration was a long time coming, and against a team like, look, in Arizona State, it's not the same without Cam Scatterboo. I don't think Levitt's that good of a quarterback, but for them to have that kind of moment against the team that went to the playoff, I don't care how it looked. I don't care who it was against. Look, Mississippi State's not going to win the SEC. No. They're not going to go to the SEC championship. Hell, they might not even go 6-6. That moment, though, is what college football is all about.
They get a late play. Like, you think about it, they were winning and then they weren't. And then all of a sudden Blake Shapen hits the long post route to give them the lead. For Jeff Lebby, that's something you build upon. You had your fan base going bananas. That might have been the fastest I've ever seen somebody tear down a goalpost either. Like 15 seconds, that joker was gone and on the ground. And I don't know if they're going to do like Tennessee did a couple of years ago and take it out into a river and dump it. Maybe it's planted in a cow pasture somewhere in Starkville, Mississippi, but you're right. It's what college football is about. Arizona State walked in with a number attached to their name. If that's just Arizona State unranked, nobody cares. But the fact that they had a 12 next to their name, it's something to build upon, and it was great to see late Saturday night.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, let's get to this week. Clemson and Georgia Tech, one of the biggest ones, certainly the biggest one, at least in terms of our metropolitan area where this game will take place on the flats. Georgia Tech has been circling this game. They see Clemson. They see that, speaking of numbers next to their name, Georgia Tech is up and coming. Georgia Tech is a team that I think will make the ACC championship game. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They try to keep him fresh. They have him fresh for a Clemson team that is, I know they won, but let's be honest. Did they really win against Troy? That was kind of demoralizing. Boo Birds were out against Dabo Swinney and Clemson when they beat Troy, but they were down to Troy, 20-3, whatever it was. This is a wounded Clemson team. You give me Haynes King, you give me Jamal Haynes, but most importantly, you give me Brent Key. And I will take Georgia Tech all day, all night, all evening long. Brent Key is a better coach than Dabo Swinney. And I've always loved Dabo Swinney. Love him. But Brent Key is a better coach. He's got a better team. He's got a better philosophy. He's got a better identity. And they're going to go and they're going to continue Clemson's struggles. They're going to win it outright. If you want to take that 9.5, fine, but they're going to win it outright.
Look, I love everything that Brent Key's done, and I thought it was very smart this week that they let Haynes King sit out. There was no need to play him against Gardner-Webb. Aaron Philo came in through for 300-plus yards. The only thing Georgia Tech really needs to clean up is the first 2 or 3 possessions of every game. 3 straight turnovers to start the game against Colorado, 2 straight against Gardner-Webb. I know Brent Key was trying to pull out what little hair he had left in that game. Dabo Swinney's got an offensive line problem. They couldn't block against Troy. It was 16-0. They had thrown a pick 6. They don't run the ball particularly well. They couldn't run it at all against LSU. Look, Clemson's got weapons. Bryant Wesco, I love him on the outside. Antonio Williams, you know what Cade Klubnik's all about. But if they can't block, I think Blake Gideon starts to dial up pressure and figure out different ways. I sat there last year on the flats when Georgia Tech upset Miami. It takes one of those. You kind of have a little belief early in the first quarter. Second quarter, the crowd gets more into it. I'm telling you, noon on Saturday, Georgia Tech's got a real chance to put themselves in the driver's seat with an easy schedule in the ACC the rest of the year to make it to Charlotte and play Miami in the ACC title game. We'll see if Brent Key and Haynes King, what they're all about. And I think it's kind of a prove-it day for Dabo Swinney. You lost to LSU. Who cares that you beat Troy? It was a really, really bad football game that you ended up winning. You need to go on the road and prove that you're the team that everybody expected you to be in 2025.
You know, after Billy Napier in Florida lost to South Florida, if you were to text Billy and say, "Hey, what's the last place that you want to play this week?" Just off the top of your head, where's the last, like, if you were to just pick a stadium, what's the worst? Oh, Death Valley. Oh, yeah, they're going to LSU. They're going to LSU to face a fantastic quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier that can sling it all over the field. We know that. They've got receivers everywhere. They're tough in the trenches. And Florida can't block anybody. Florida can't protect DJ Lagway. Florida can't establish the running game. And it's only a 6.5-point spread. This is a double-digit game. I just flat out double-digit game. But B, if we're wondering when Billy Napier is going to get fired, it might be leaving Tiger Stadium on that. He might get tarmacked. He might get kiffined in the Baton Rouge airport, because this is going to get so ugly. I'm surprised. I'm floored. This is not a double-digit game in Las Vegas. LSU I picked them to win the national championship. I also picked Florida to go to the college football playoff. That's not working out so well. But this LSU team with Brian Kelly, the coaching disparity is as big as the Grand Canyon. Garrett Nussmeier is going to light up a Florida team that is so incredibly demoralized.
And here's what's crazy, Barrett. They also have the added element of revenge. Florida beat them last year down at the Swamp and beat them pretty good as they took care of business. LSU also comes off a game where they were so lethargic and so lackluster against Louisiana Tech. I had that game with the Miami Bethune game on at the same time, watching two boring-ass football games. But it's college football, so it's never really boring. But LSU is going to have, one, we played terrible at home in week number 1. 2, we have revenge against Florida, and we've got a wounded dog walking in. You mentioned the lack of being able to protect DJ Lagway. I was more disappointed that DJ Lagway couldn't put that team on his back against USF, and I think he's walking into a place that he's going to have a really hard time hearing. You're going to have to do a lot of silent counts. It's going to be a lot of things that work out against the University of Florida. I think LSU wins. I don't know that it's a blowout because Florida's going to have some pride associated with them, but I have no idea how they can come out of there with a win. All those bubble screens and using Trey Wilson and jet sweeps, that crap's going to be shut down in a hurry. LSU is going to get a win.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any pride left in Florida. Not going to lie. that might have gone away a long time ago. All right, I'm going to defer to you for this one, but I'm going to pick your boys against South Florida. The Bulls train comes to a screeching halt in Coral Gables, or in Miami Gardens, same thing, whatever. It's not the same thing at all. It's not at all the same thing. It's a different world completely. But Carson Beck, I was completely wrong about him. He showed me why, showed the world why against Notre Dame. I love those weapons that Miami has. I know they can keep Carson Beck protected, and poor Byron Brown, he doesn't know what's coming to him. So I'm going to take Miami. It's not just to make you happy. It's because I do think that they're an ACC championship caliber team.
Look, everything you just talked about, the offensive and defensive lines are big in favor of Miami. Like USF held up great against Florida. Florida's offensive line can't hold a candle to Miami. Carson Beck actually broke a 40-year standing Miami record. He broke a record previously held by Vinny Testaverde. Now I get it. It was against Bethune-Cookman. 15 for 15 to start the game. Most consecutive completions to start a game. Should have been 16 for 16. The throw that he missed, he had a guy wide open. He just airmailed a throw. It wasn't anything. There was problems there. He's really comfortable in this offense. Malachi Toney, I was watching the broadcast on Saturday night. They're comparing him to Santana Moss. I don't think he has the straight line speed of Santana Moss. He reminds me more of Roscoe Parrish, if you remember, number 1 that we used to play for Miami years and years ago. CJ Daniels, thank you, LSU. We appreciate it. He had no touchdowns a year ago for the Tigers. He's already got 3 for Miami. He's doing well, and they can run the football. The worst thing that happened for USF. Best, you beat Florida. That's obviously huge for program wins. The worst is now you have full attention of Miami. Do you know who Miami plays next week? The week after USF, they have the Gators coming to town. So what you wanted was maybe you could sneak up on them when they were peeking ahead. Now they're going to have Miami's full interest. I think the spread was 16, somewhere in that range. I'm taking Miami. They beat them 50-15 last year. I think the game will be close for a half, and then Miami just wears them out in the second half.
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's no reason to get too excited. Just go ahead and do what you do in the first half and then pull away. Notre Dame, a team that you saw up close and personal. I don't know what they did against Miami. I don't know why they gave CJ Carr that much responsibility. I don't know where Jeremiah Love went. Jaden Greathouse didn't seem to be in the stadium at all, but they had a week to prepare to take on Texas A&M in Notre Dame. That is an awesome. Have you ever been to Notre Dame to a game there?
No, I'm going next year. We play at Notre Dame next year. You know, I'm always waiting to see when Miami will play up there. So next year I'm going.
Dude, I went to the Indiana playoff game. It snowed. That campus was immaculate. I mean, I can't even begin to describe you how cool it is, but tough place to play. Texas A&M quarterback Marcel Reed still sort of questionably got banged up last week, but you do your best work. You do your best self-scouting after your first game. Notre Dame's had 2 weeks to do that. I think when you look at what this Notre Dame team is in terms of talent, it's more talented than Texas A&M. And I think it's better coached than Texas A&M. I love Marcus Freeman. And there are weapons that seemingly disappeared in Miami. I don't know why. I know that Miami did a good job of slowing down that running game, but there's no excuse for Jeremiah Love and really the rushing attack as a whole to just disappear like that. So Marcus Freeman's going to look at that tape. He's going to be like, man, I screwed that up. And they are going to absolutely blow doors off of Texas A&M. Notre Dame's a 6.5-point favorite for a reason. Vegas thinks that there's a big talent gap, and there is. So take Notre Dame by double digits.
Yeah, I think it's going to be closer than blowing. I got a feeling that might be inside the 6.5 number because there were things that Notre Dame did really well, and I don't want to disparage them, which is hard for me to say because I don't like them at all. But their defensive line was really good against Miami. I think they were really sticky in coverage, but something that I'm not sure they can clean up in a week and a half of practice. Their offensive line was bad. What was supposed to be a strength for them, their tackles got whipped. Now, maybe it was just Ruben Bain and it was Akeem Mesidor being too much for them to block, but I didn't think they blocked very well anywhere. And I think Texas A&M under Mike Elko is going to try to find different ways to get after and make, again, CJ Carr is going to have to beat you. Load the box, put 8 in the run game, see if CJ Carr can get it done. I think Notre Dame ultimately wins. To your point, they are more talented, and they've played a tougher early game, obviously, against Miami, and they get that weird week 2 bye, which nobody ever wants. But I think it's going to be close. I think Texas A&M has kind of circled this one as, if we want to put ourselves on the map, now's the time to do so. And I think the legs of Marcel Reed, remember, he didn't play in the game a year ago. It was Connor Wegman, who was terrible in that game. Marcel Reed might make things happen and keep that game close, although I do think the Irish win at home.
All right, let's get to the big one in our neck of the woods. Georgia and Tennessee on Rocky Top. Georgia's a 7-point favorite. I think it was 7.5 earlier. It's gone down a little bit. I can't figure out why, because styles make fights, and Tennessee dictates style. They are an air-it-out team. Joey Aguilar has been able to do that successfully through the first 2 games. And I don't know what Georgia's identity is. I don't know if Georgia knows what Georgia's identity is. The offensive line has been average at best. They can't run the football. It's the same problem they had last year. Yes, they had individually great players. There were good individuals on that offensive line. It sucked as a unit. They can't run the football. I love Nate Frazier. It's just like he disappears for prolonged stretches at a time. So if Tennessee hits a big play or two, is Georgia ready to handle that with Gunnar Stockton, with an offensive line that's just sort of okay, with a wide receiver core that admittedly is better, but is not elite like it should be with the personnel that they have? No, Georgia's not ready for that. They cannot win a shootout, and that's what Tennessee does, and they do it consistently. And if they do it on Rocky Top, things are going to get sideways. So give me Tennessee. I'll grab those 7 points, but you won't need them because the Vols are winning that game outright.
Yeah, not so fast, my friend. Kirby Smart, they like to kind of play coy the whole time. And, hey, we didn't play well against Austin Peay. Everything you said spot on. The offensive line struggled, although they ran for 190. It's against Austin Peay. I think you and I should be able to run for 190 against Austin Peay. The O-line struggled. I don't think Gunnar Stockton's been great. I think he's been very average at best. He's done what they asked him to do. Can he take over a game? The next part, they dropped 5 passes already. They led the nation in drop passes a year ago. They've already got 5 so far this year. But Kirby Smart and his defense have owned Tennessee, owned them. Even when they had Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt and all those big-time receivers and were running the ball everywhere, they came into Athens and got shut down. Same thing's going to happen. Joey Aguilar, nice story. It was good that you beat Syracuse. You beat East Tennessee State. Now you're going to play real football this week. Dogs win by double digits. They whooped Tennessee's ass like they stole something.
All right, bold prediction of the week, and one of our guys behind the scenes, Andrew Groover's not going to like this, but Alabama's a 20-point favorite against Wisconsin. This is a very good Wisconsin defense. They always are solid. They always punch you in the mouth. Alabama's offensive line, I've stopped believing them. A lot like Georgia, they have good individuals, but as a unit, they are not good. They haven't played good for 5 years. It's a consistent problem. Wisconsin will punch you in the mouth. They'll reset that offensive line. Wisconsin will have the ball late with a chance to win. I'm talking under 5 minutes. They'll have the ball late with a chance to win. I don't know if they're going to be able to get the job done, but this is going to be an old school slugfest. Alabama, if that happens, and it's bizarre that I'd say this, it would never happen under Nick Saban, at least in the early years, but Wisconsin's a more physical football team. So they're going to have the ball late with a chance to beat Alabama and pull a 20-point underdog or pull a 20-point upset.
Now, Alabama fans will have you tell you they're right because they scored 70 on Louisiana Monroe. Whatever. No, nobody cares. Anybody that gleans something from beating a directional school by a lot of points, you're watching the wrong sport. My bold prediction is a little more overarching, and it's hard to say, but after watching Saturday, Oregon's the best team in the Big Ten. I watch Ohio State. They're really good. That's fine. Oregon is great. Yep. Oregon was pissed off on Saturday against Oklahoma State. They're going to play Penn State in a couple of weeks. I think Penn State is pedestrian as all get out. I know the final score was 34-0 against FIU. That's like a 20-0 game late in the fourth quarter, and they get a couple of big runs out of their running game. Oregon is the best team in the Big Ten. They're going to win the Big Ten, and they're going to make a deep run in the postseason. Ohio State fans, scream at me all you want. I know you got Jeremiah Smith, best player in college football in my estimation. Oregon's a better team. Dante Moore's just getting better as it's going. And Dan Lanning, maybe this is the year Oregon finally gets their first championship in football.
Would not surprise me in the least bit. Did you see who Lane Kiffin apologized to after the game against Kentucky last week?
Yes, I did.
He apologized to the gamblers.
Yes.
So my lock of the week is Ole Miss -7.5 over Arkansas. All those gamblers that are mad at Lane Kiffin, and all the coaches know. They'll never tell you, but all of the coaches know the point spread. Lane recognizes that he let a lot of people down, and he's going to make up for it against Arkansas. They're 7.5-point favorites. His foot is going to be on the gas until that clock hits triple zeros. He wants his fan base to be happy. He wants his fan base to make money because then they give that money back to him and he's more successful. So since he let the gamblers down last week, Lane Kiffin going to make them all happy this week.
And it was such a double-edged sword. Not only did he allow them to score late to kill the point spread, it also hit the over. So if you had the under, you lost all at the end. Thank goodness I'm not a huge gambler. My lock of the week is the Georgia Bulldogs. This is the situation where they walk into, and Tennessee's got the bravado. And everybody's going to have on the overalls and the checkerboard painted on their chest, and they're going to walk out of there sad as they've always done. Georgia not only wins, as I said, double digits. They cover the spread.
Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube, listening. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're everywhere as well. So don't forget to subscribe, review. You're doing the podcast. Everybody that's watching this, John, or listening, they already know how to do the podcast thing. There are people around the world, I can't believe it, they still don't know. So all of the people watching, all the people listening, go ahead and share it with everybody you know. This is the best college football podcast out there for a reason. We're going to keep doing it throughout the entire season. Really appreciate everybody checking it out. This has been the Fans College Football Podcast. We'll talk to you next week.